They were just uprooted from their homes. Can you imagine somebody coming in and saying, you grab a suitcase, you're leaving, we're going to take you across the country. Not knowing anybody, not knowing where you're going, nothing.
In March of 1942, under the authority of an executive order, the United States government began the forced evacuation and detention of Japanese Americans. The move stemming from a wave of xenophobia that gripped the nation after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor a few months before.
It is a very important story for Japanese Americans, a very important lesson to be learned from that chapter for all Americans.
Between 1942 and 1945, thousands of Japanese Americans were interned at Jerome and Rower camps, surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards just a few miles outside of McGehee, Arkansas. Today, all that remains of the camps is a small cemetery and a stand of oak trees, but the memories live on at the Japanese American Internment Museum in McGehee, which celebrated its 10th anniversary on May 4th. McGehee Mayor Jeff Oyoung says the event brought people from all over the country.
This date would work out about 200 people from California on 4 chartered buses, and as you can tell with the crowd, we probably had maybe 500 people here today, and we knew that the longer we wait, the more former internees won't be able to make it because of the age. This part of history happened in 1942. So, you know, they're in their 80s and 90s, and you can tell today, one was 102 years old that attended our program today, which is amazing.
The keynote speaker, Star Trek star George Takei, was stationed at the Rower camp at the age of 5. He says this part of history is rarely talked about.
And it's very little known still today in the United States. But most vitally important, Japanese Americans who were incarcerated and their descendants know very little about it. My father was block manager, and when I was a teenager, I became very curious. I learned about it from my father, although I was here and experiencing it as a young child. There are Japanese Americans whose parents did not talk about it. It's their own family history, and there's that blank in their history.
The museum is a converted train station, and Oyoung says the building has come a long way.
So the McGehee Industrial Foundation Committee got together, and we started forming a committee to talk about where and what, because the exhibit had to have certain square footage, height of the ceiling, air conditioning, and so forth. So we decided about the museum. But first of all, it was about to fall down. So we had to go and try to obtain grants. And with the help of ASU and the Delta Cultural Center and the National Grants site, we were able to achieve that.
And while the building no longer functions as a train station, Takei says it has a similar mission.
Building is still in the transportation business. It takes people back in time to history to learn about what happened here 80 years ago. And it inspires people to look to the future, and with the lessons learned here, to build a better future, not only for Arkansas, but for America. And transporting ideas, information, and inspiration. Thank you very much.
For City and Town, I'm Ben Klein.